नमस्कार, मैं डॉक्टर मनोज तिर्की आप सबों को आज के इस सेशन में स्वागत करता हूं। आज का जो सेशन का टॉपिक है इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी 2020। आज के सब्जेक्ट एक्सपर्ट हैं प्रोफेसर संतोष पांडा, डायरेक्टर स्टाफ ट्रेनिंग एंड रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ डिस्टेंस एजुकेशन। इसके अलावा इससे पहले ये बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण रोल अदा कर चुके हैं एज चेयरमैन नेशनल काउंसिल फॉर टीचर एजुकेशन। इसके अलावा इन्होंने डायरेक्टर एसोसिएशन ऑफ इंडियन यूनिवर्सिटीज़ का रोल भी अदा कर चुका है। इससे पहले कि हम इस कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाएं, कुछ अनाउंसमेंट्स मैं करना चाहूँगा। ये जो NEP 2020 प्रोफेशनल डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम है, इसमें 4 मॉड्यूल्स हैं और 14 यूनिट्स हैं। इसमें 30 वीडियोज़ हैं जो हमारे स्वयं प्लेटफॉर्म में उपलब्ध हैं। इसमें प्रोफेसर कस्तूरी रंगन का भी वीडियो है। इसके अलावा हमारे इग्नू वाइस चांसलर प्रोफेसर नागेश्वर राव जी का भी वीडियो है। हम आप सबों को आग्रह करेंगे कि ये वीडियोस आप जरूर देखें, इससे काफ़ी जानकारी आपको हासिल होगी। इसके अलावा हमारे स्वयं प्लेटफॉर्म में एक डिस्कशन फोरम भी है, जिसमें मैं आप सबों को आग्रह करूंगा कि आप लोग इसमें पार्टिसिपेट करें और अपनी राय रखें। इसके अलावा हमारा जो ये प्रोग्राम है यूट्यूब लाइव चैनल COE यूट्यूब लाइव चैनल में उपलब्ध है, और हमारा जो स्वयं प्लेटफॉर्म है splive.ignuonline.ac.in, इस प्लेटफॉर्म में भी ये उपलब्ध है चैनल नंबर 20 पे। इसकी जो लिंक है ये आप सबों को ईमेल के जरिए भेज दिया गया है, तो आप लोग इस प्रोग्राम को हमारे यूट्यूब चैनल और स्वयं के लिंक के जरिए पार्टिसिपेट कर सकते हैं। अब तक 9 बैचेस हो चुके हैं इस प्रोग्राम के, और इसके तहत 54 वीडियोस हमारे उपलब्ध हैं जो हमारे यूट्यूब चैनल में अवेलेबल हैं। इसके अलावा स्वयं प्लेटफॉर्म में भी अवेलेबल हैं। मैं आप सबों को एनकरेज करता हूं कि ये वीडियोस आप जरूर देखें। इसमें NEP 2020 के बारे में बहुत सारा जानकारी आपको प्राप्त होगा। इसके अलावा इस प्रोग्राम में जो 6th डे के बाद, जो NEP PDP प्रोग्राम का 6ठा दिन के बाद MCQ खुल जाएगा। इसमें जो डिस्कशन फोरम के जो क्वेश्चंस हैं वो खुल जाएंगे। इसके वेटेज हैं 30%। इसके अलावा जो प्रोग्राम एंड टेस्ट है वो 70% वेटेज रखता है। ओवरऑल आपको 50% स्कोर करना पड़ेगा, तभी आपको सर्टिफिकेट मिल पाएगा। मैं आप लोगों से एक अनुग्रह करना चाहता हूं कि आप लोग, आपके जो भी साथी हैं, आपके जो कोलीग्स हैं, आपके जो जितने भी जानकार हैं जो यूनिवर्सिटी में हैं या कॉलेज में हैं, उनको ज़रूर बताइए इस प्रोग्राम के बारे में। ये प्रोग्राम फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट है और ये आपके करियर एडवांसमेंट स्कीम में भी इसका फ़ायदा मिलेगा। इसमें API स्कोर आपको मिलेगी। इस सेशन के बाद आज 2 और वीडियोस इसके साथ जारी रहेंगे। एक वीडियो है नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी 2020 द ब्रॉड कॉन्टूर्स बाय प्रोफेसर कस्तूरी रंगन। उसके अलावा एक और वीडियो है रोल ऑफ पॉलिसी इन हायर एजुकेशन, ये प्रोफेसर रामचंद्रन के द्वारा है। ये दोनों वीडियोस इस सेशन के बाद उपलब्ध रहेंगे। अब मैं प्रोफेसर संतोष पांडा जी से आगे का कार्यक्रम जारी रखने के लिए अनुरोध करूंगा। विथिन फ्यू सेकेंड्स वी विल मूव टू हिज प्रेजेंटेशन।
So friends, welcome to this video presentation. This is in fact a teleconferencing presentation SP Live with interactive chat facilities available. This is the first day of the 10th batch of NEP-2020 National Training Program approved by UGC, and this has been ratified by the Ministry of Education, Government of India. And this is a national program, and you should feel proud that you are part of this prestigious program. I'm Professor Panda. I'm very happy to make a presentation the first day on NEP-2020, its implementation. Friends, July 2020, NEP, National Education Policy 2020, was rolled out in the country. Subsequently, especially University Grants Commission and many regulators, including National Apex Body in Distance Learning like IGNOU, they have all proceeded towards devising strategies for implementation. The University of Delhi has rolled out the 4-year undergraduate program already with the first semester admission. Indira Gandhi National Open University has gone ahead almost all the aspects or recommendations of the NEP 2020 for their implementation. Quite a few programs will be presented subsequently by our esteemed colleagues who touch upon and with case studies from IGNOU also, including skilling, Agnibir program, 4-year undergraduate program, technology-enabled learning and skilling, and so on and so forth. Let me proceed because during this period, 2021 was COVID time, 2022, in fact, universities and colleges, they moved ahead with the strategization, especially development of institutional development plan or formulation of that, and for 5 years, and which was basically meant for the implementation of NEP 2020. In between, in 2022, more specifically, especially the second half of 2022, a whole lot of developments have taken place. Quite a few institutions have taken initiative in the implementation of NEP 2020. The regulator, especially the University Grants Commission and vocational regulator, NCVET, National Council for Vocational Education and Training under Ministry of Skilling and Entrepreneurship, they have come forward quite a few developments that I will share with you, the cross-border education delivery, and quite a few things that I would touch upon, which are based on the important recommendations of NEP 2020. So friends, let me proceed with the concern that we have as teachers and college and university teachers, so also administrators and other people concerned with NEP 2020, whether they are operating at the grassroots level or the national apex level. All are concerned with what you see on your screen, multidisciplinary education, which is the foundation of the NEP 2020 to increase employability, as well as the wider perspective of knowledge understanding in diverse areas and including 21st century skills. Holistic education, physical, mental, emotional, ethical, and spiritual joining together for varieties of courses, activities, especially student activities, including field studies and discussion seminars and so on and so forth, which will be addressing holistic education. Multiple entry, multiple exit, and therefore academic bank of credit, I will discuss about that. And the recently declared the National Credit Framework by NCVET and University Grants Commission and National Credit Framework 2022. I will discuss about that. This also provides for multiple entry and exit as well as academic bank of credits, and which also proposes that there will be midway course correction for students who can shift from one stream or one area of study to another area of study. Blended learning is the issue today because the entire higher education has gone blended. At least today, 40% of credit hours a student can take from the SOIM online courses or MOOCs, and 60% from one's own university or college. So blended learning has already, I will touch upon that. Educational acceleration for the gifted, if the student can complete a course of study, a program of study before its minimum time required. Could it be possible? Second, that a student who is gifted can handle 2 programs at the same point of time and can take a dual degree within the same duration of the study. Recognition of prior learning is a most important issue today, and therefore horizontal vertical mobility between vocational education and general higher education has been proposed, and National Credit Framework 2022 has almost dealt with this and worked out formulations that how to recognize prior learning and therefore do recognize credits, learning as credits, and transfer those credits into one's own kitty so that the student is not required to do those credits and complete the rest of the credits and take the degree. Equivalence of courses and qualifications, because every university is offering diversified programs, degrees, certificate, diploma, but equivalence through Association of Indian Universities, equivalence of courses were there, but now equivalence of programs and equivalence of qualifications. Qualification means the completion of a particular duration of study with specified learning outcomes which are assessed based on certain framework which the National Credit Framework has proposed, will be leading to a certificate, diploma or degree, and therefore that degree will be equivalent to any degree which is offered nationally, or that degree or diploma is offered internationally by overseas institutions. Mobility between general and higher education, as I have already specified, vocational education and general higher education, these two streams are running almost parallel, except that there are skill universities, and the BVOC, Bachelor of Vocational Education, is offered by University Grants Commission, recognized by University Grants Commission and offered by quite a few universities, except that the vocational education and general higher education are not talking to each other. And therefore it is becoming very difficult for vocational students to acquire degrees and for general higher education students to acquire skill-oriented courses towards their employability and future employment. We will discuss about that. There have been certain developments during the past years. Now, NEP 2020, what it talks about, that multidisciplinary institutions and multidisciplinary courses or programs and departments. There are almost 13,000 plus institutions have been noted by NEP 2020 as standalone institutions. Either they're offering one program of study, one specified discipline area, or they have been offering, they have been isolated from different other disciplines within the institution. So a single program institution or an institution which is not accommodating other disciplines within that institution, including a college. Of course, a college generally has multi-departments and therefore it is a multidisciplinary institution, but there are many, 13,000 institutions. I can at least talk about teacher education. A large number of institutions, either one single teacher education programs, or they have been operating without any support from a college or university, and therefore a four-year integrated teacher education program would necessarily require that education department functions within a multidisciplinary college or university with multi-university departments, and therefore an integrated BSc B.Ed or BA B.Ed could also be possible. This is equally applicable to other disciplines also, because a student from one discipline, when in multidisciplinarity and multiple entry and exit, would like to take courses from other disciplines, would find it very difficult, because it is the disciplines do not really exist. But certainly one can take, we will discuss, one can take also because of the cluster institutions that NEP 2020 has proposed, that institutions from the same city, that one is functioning in the morning, the other one in the evening, for instance. A student can take a course from another discipline from the evening college or the evening shift of another college. So it is talking about moving to larger multidisciplinary universities and higher education institutions, clusters that I described, and therefore regarding the structure of higher education. Three types of institutions it is proposed, as you know, that research universities, teaching universities, and multidisciplinary autonomous colleges. All colleges will be gradually converted into autonomous colleges, and they have to become non-single discipline based or multidisciplinary institutions. There will be universities which will be basically focusing on teaching, but also they will do research based on the students' research work and some of the research projects by the university professors. And there will be basically multidisciplinary research universities, and they will be focusing more on research, but also there will be something like an undergraduate teaching. For instance, IISc Bengaluru, for instance, was a research-based institution which at one point of time started thinking of and therefore offered undergraduate program in science. So therefore, the research output could also be transferred to in terms of teaching and learning to the students, and therefore students' projects could also be based on the professors' research which the institution has been doing. And IISc has been the topmost ranking institution in the country, and which is also in international ranking as appearing as the #1 institution in the country. Affiliated colleges to become multidisciplinary academic institutions or multidisciplinary colleges. Cluster colleges will be there, and university colleges will be there. So university colleges will be not affiliated but constituent colleges or campus colleges. There will be affiliated colleges. Affiliated colleges will be gradually transforming into independent or autonomous colleges or institutions with multi-departments. And there will be multidisciplinary universities, because the single discipline universities, as you know, that medical or petroleum or quite a few the professional areas especially, they have been single discipline universities. They have also to accommodate multidisciplines. As you know, IITs, IIMs, for quite some time, they have accommodated humanities and social sciences to expand their multidisciplinarity and for other benefits, including holistic development of the graduates or the human personality, and including their happiness skills and social and life skills and employability skills. The NEP has suggested that one could consider more that there can be common departments like language, literature, music, philosophy, Indology, art, dance, theatre, education, mathematics, statistics, pure and applied sciences, sociology, economics, sports and translation. There could be quite a few more. And these disciplines would contribute to holistic development, would expand the horizon of the human potential, human understanding, worldview, as well as contributing to employability, which is called 21st century skills today. You could add on more departments to them, but these departments should gradually become common in colleges and universities. NEP 2020 talks about the approach that one has to take, and the approach has now been pointed out by the UGC document, which you should also go through, which is talking about twinning colleges, dual degree programs, and joint degree programs. Also, the other UGC document on multidisciplinary institutions, departments, and programs, of which I have fortunately become a part of the committee, but it talks about a very wide-ranging transformation of institutions into multidisciplinary institutions, including research universities, teaching universities, and autonomous colleges. It proposes that there should be academic collaboration through higher education clusters. In a city, if there are 5 colleges, for instance, and 2 universities, they could join in, not that they're merging among each other or with another, but they are joining in, allowing the students of one institution to take up courses from another institution. Of course, there shouldn't be class of the timetable. The timetable has to be very different, and therefore, if the student is taking up courses from another institution, of course, one has to take up courses, join that, and also transfer credits and pay the fees for that. Simultaneously, a student can also take courses of study outside one's own discipline, or skill-based courses or other related courses other than one's own discipline from distance learning, including the SOIM. For instance, National Open University, IGNOU, is offering course-wise registration as well as programs, dual degree programs also. So a student can also take admission from IGNOU in a particular course and transfer that credit to the main university, the college that one is studying. There can be merger of standalone institutions with multidisciplinary institutions, or they convert themselves into multidisciplinary institutions. Or like for instance, if you can add a department like education to your existing department, it also becomes multidisciplinary. Please go through the document of UGC, Multidisciplinary Institutions and Programs and Departments, in which there has been a considerable discussion that how education departments would be established, and which will not only contribute to multidisciplinarity, but also it will contribute to innovations in pedagogy, teaching learning, ICT, assessment, blended learning, and so on and so forth. And also, these will be contributing to the implementation of NEP 2020 and therefore take up the responsibility of continuing professional development vis-a-vis NEP 2020. Multidisciplinary programs, standalone institutions like there are many in education, management, law, engineering, they could collaborate with others to offer or convert themselves or merge with other institutions if they wish so. 4-year dual degree bachelor's programs like BA, B.Ed for instance, by cluster institutions or for those through this open and distance learning, one can also take up. So 2-degree programs like BA, B.Ed. This is one way of saying a 2-degree program, but it leads to one qualification called BA, B.Ed or BSc, B.Ed for instance. But then one can also take up, which I will talk about that, one can take up at the same point of time a dual degree. So dual degree programs, the UGC Regulation 2022 talks about that a student from one face-to-face university or campus university can take up a program of study through distance learning at the same point of time. National Open University like IGNOU, they have also allowed that a student from IGNOU can take up 2 programs of study through distance learning or online learning, provided there is a semester gap between the 1-degree program or the 2nd-degree program, simply because there should not be clash of examination dates. There would be a written MOU with partner institutions. Of course, this will be carried out through MOUs or Memorandum of Agreement. So I talked about IGNOU, 2 programs, undergraduate program, and we have 45 programs in 2 academic cycles, 45 programs in the basket. A student can choose any 1 or any 2 programs from these 45. Of course, as per UGC regulation, PhD is not part of a dual degree program. So you cannot have 1 program of study and simultaneously continue PhD is not possible. Now a few minutes about National Credit Framework, which has been very recently promulgated by the Skill Ministry. Of course, UGC is promulgated, but prepared by the NCVET, National Council for Vocational Education and Training, which simply says that the existing Skill Ministry National Skill Qualifications Framework, which was governing the skill courses in the country through sector skill councils. National Higher Education Qualifications Framework of UGC, which is already implemented, and the National Skill Education Qualifications, School Education Qualifications Framework vis-a-vis the National Curriculum Framework at the school level, all will be subsumed under the National Credit Framework 2022. Please get hold of this document from UGC website and go through, because it talks about the details of calculation of accreditation of prior learning, that how the formal, informal, non-formal, all 3 types of learning can be assessed, can be transferred to the kitty in terms of credits. So credit value for the academic and skill courses at all levels, level 1, say for instance, 1st year undergraduate, 2nd year undergraduate, 3rd year undergraduate for instance, and the delivery modes, whether one is taking through online, distance, face-to-face or blended, simply doesn't matter. There will be seamless credit transfer and equivalency. It talks about how to accumulate credits, how to transfer credits, and how the vocational education and general education equivalency will be established, as well as how the credit transfer between general education and vocational education. From general education, one can shift to vocational education in the future, and from vocational education, one can also shift to general education. Or while going to general education, one can pick up a few vocational courses from the vocational stream, or the vocational students can pick up some general courses from the general stream, and there can be transfer. I'll give an example of subsequently about the credit transfer. Unified Credit Framework for integration of all kinds of, so the NCF 22, National Credit Framework 2022 talks about that. Please get hold of that document and go through. Again, NCF 2022 talks about learning is expressed in terms of credits. Credit, what is a credit by the way? The credit is nothing but the achievement of student learning outcomes irrespective of the modes of delivery that the student has gone through. The learning outcomes remain constant. The competencies, knowledge, attitude, skills that the student is learning and that is assessed through assessment, both formative as well as summative. Whether one is going through face-to-face, distance, online, or blended learning, it simply doesn't matter. So learning could be academic, learning could be vocational, and learning can be experiential. So it is talking about three kinds of learning. Learning which is academic, which is taking place with the teacher or at a distance, vocational, skill-based, and experiential through experience or on-the-job training. That somebody after first year of BEA is taking a 40 credits, taking a certificate, and going out, joining the job, and coming back. And the 2-3 periods, years of service that one has offered, that service experience could also be transformed through assessment into credits, and those credit exemption could be given to the student when one is coming back to complete the second year. So one need not complete 40 credits, one can complete less than 40 credits because the other credits will be accredited from one's own experience. This is an excellent development which is happening internationally. We are very late to implement this, but this is how it is going to happen. So creditization, accumulation, storage, transfer, redemption is possible. Mobility within general higher education and vocational education is also possible. And these would be operationalized through what is called an academic bank of credits. National Academic Bank of Credits is just like a bank. The institution should open its account, and therefore its own students from 2022 onwards. Before that, the credit accumulation is not allowed. So from 2022 onwards, those students who have registered in Academic Bank of Credits, unless their institution is registered, the student cannot register. So the student who has registered in the Academic Bank of Credits will be going on accumulating credits from one's own college or university and credits by doing courses from other institutions through distance learning, through online learning, through SOAM, and transfer those credits into one's own account in the ABC, and the student can finally join together those credits and decide how many credits that one has to spend to acquire a certificate or diploma or a degree. The rest of the credits will remain in the account, and these credits will stand there for 7 years. So within 7 years, for the time being, it might increase in the future, may decrease, but hopefully increase in the future, that one can, the surplus credits at certain point of time later, one can continue certain more courses and join those credits and take another certificate, diploma or degree. So the operationalization will be through Academic Bank of Credits. For instance, right now, almost 30 lakhs, 3 million students have already registered, as till yesterday, have already registered in the Academic Bank of Credits, out of which almost 21 lakh students are from IGNOU and 9 lakh, almost 10 lakh students are from other universities. And in IGNOU, it is increasing, but certainly other universities and colleges are coming forward, and your college or institution should also come forward to register in Academic Bank of Credits. Otherwise, the students will not get a chance to do credit accumulation, deposit, and credit bhugtan, means they cannot redeem the credit, and credit transfer will not be possible, and their credits can also not be transferred if they are going to study outside the country. So within the country and between countries, overseas and Indian higher education, this credit transfer is guaranteed. You could also go through a presentation made by a very detailed presentation with technical groups from ABC. I have listed down the URL for you, the UGC video, which is available. This is from YouTube. This is also available in the UGC website. You could also go through for a detailed presentation, including technical presentation from the ABC group and the chairperson of Chairman University Grants Commission. How the credit will work out, the per year, please note it, that per year the credit is constant, that is 40 credits a year, 20 credits a semester and 40 credits a year, which should translate into 12 hours of teachers and students' work. So credit, what is a credit? Completion of a course of learning corresponding to a qualification. This qualification has been defined earlier through NSQF, sometime back in National Higher Education Qualifications Framework, and now the National Credit Framework 2022. The qualifications have been defined at different levels with certain standards. So therefore, I will talk about the calculation, the way NCF has done, that students' learning will be transformed into credits. So accreditation of any learning subject to assessment, any learning would mean academic, vocational, and experiential. These three we have already talked about: academic, vocational, skill-based, and experiential on-the-job training. So courses will be aligned with the credit framework at a given level, and that credit will define the competency and learning outcomes. So therefore, achievement of credit would mean achievement of those learning outcomes and competencies at certain levels: grade A, grade B, grade C, and so on and so forth. So how the credit levels have been defined? The National Skill Qualifications Framework had 10 levels, which the National Higher Education Qualifications Framework also got it, but now the National Credit Framework has reduced it to 8 levels. So school education is up to level 4. That simply means up to +2, senior secondary, level 4 will be over. Undergraduate education will be 4.5 to 6. I will show an example. The postgraduate education 6 to 7, PhD is level 8. So combination of academic, skilling, experiential learning, which will also include apprenticeship, internship, projects, and so on and so forth, including debates, discussion, whole lot of activities that take place on the campus by the students. They all will be translated into hours of work by the students, and those hours of work will be translated into credits. So the credit, 40 credits a year, would simply doesn't necessarily mean that the teacher will be teaching 40 credits all the time. The 40 credits will include teachers teaching as well as whole lot of students' activities which will be translated into credit hours. Fortunately, at the National Open University like IGNOU, we say 1 credit is 30 student study hours, which includes the self-learning and whole lot of activities that the student does. Almost the same thing is coming up here, except that it is dominated in the face-to-face by teachers teaching, but the students' activities will also join in to define the credit. So up to grade 5, it will be almost up to 1,000 hours of work in a year, but from grade 6 onwards, it will be 1,200 hours. So 1,200 hours, 40 credits, that would simply mean 40 credits a year, that would simply mean 30 hours per credit. So at IGNOU, for instance, we have been earlier talking about 1 credit 30 hours, but now 1 credit is 30 hours. But for calculation of teaching, 1 credit is 15 hours of teaching. The rest of the hours will come from the students' activities. So a student can take more than 1,200 hours, for instance. 1,200 hours is 1 degree, but this, or a certificate, because 1,200 hours per year at first year is a certificate. 1,200 hours for the second year is diploma. 1,200 hours for the third year is the degree in a 3-year degree program. Another 1,200 hours in the 4th year in a 4-year undergraduate program will be BA or BSc with research. So that I will show immediately after this. So 1,200 hours, more than 1,200 hours a student can take, that would simply mean a student can do 2 degrees simultaneously. It is possible. So friends, 1 hour of theory is equivalent to 2 hours of practical, including field study, and 3 hours of experiential learning, on-the-job training, internship, or kinds of things. So therefore, to conclude the National Credit Framework and the calculation of credit points, please go through that document which talks about in detail how especially the experiential learning will be credited, transformed into credits, and will be transferred to the student's kitty when after doing a job one is joining the 2nd year or 3rd year or another degree program. Because once credit has been accumulated, deposited in Academic Bank of Credit, so one can draw from ABC and do a few more courses and complete another course of study, a program of study. So undergraduate first year, level 4.5, credits 40, 40 is constant, level goes on increasing, therefore the credit points would go on increasing. So first year 4.5, 40 credits, 180 credit points. Second year 5 level, 40 credits, 200 credit points. And you see at senior 7 PhD, level 8, 40 credits, so 320. So that simply means a 1 year of PhD is 320 points, and a 1 year of undergraduate first year program is 180 points. So you can now imagine, because that PhD level is much higher, probably the highest than the first year undergraduate program. So friends, about National Higher Education Qualifications Framework, which is now subsumed into the National Credit Framework 2022. But then I will discuss very briefly about this, because this text talks about multiple entry and exit. How level 4 undergraduate program, 40 credits, one can complete, go to the world of work, do a job, and come back for level 2 to complete a diploma after a few years. Another 40 credits, come back and go back to work, come back to bachelor's degree to do a 3-year program, another 40 credits, put together 120 credits, and so on and so forth, up to PhD level. So how this especially undergraduate, postgraduate curriculum is visualized, by the way. It talks about flexible curricular structures, science, technology, engineering, art and mathematics education. Now art has been added to STEM. Instead of STEM, it is called now STEAM. Industry academia linkages, and therefore you know that for skill courses that you have to necessarily, or the institutions have to necessarily involve the experts from the industry and such skill areas which are now called the professors of practice. The professors of practice may not necessarily have a PhD degree, but they have certain years of experience in that particular area, which qualifies them as professors of practice. And quite a few universities in this country have started appointing professors of practice full-time, and their responsibility would develop skill-based courses as well as join other programs of study to facilitate employability and professional development of their graduates. Multiple entry and exit I have already discussed. Community engagement and service is a compulsory part. Research and internship, environment value-based education, language, art and culture, and skill courses are compulsory. These are all within the formulation of multidisciplinarity. How it happens, for instance, very recently, the UGC has finally come out after deliberations, has finalized and circulated for all of us the 4-year undergraduate program structure. It talks about 120 credits when it was a 3-year program, or it is a 3-year program, and it will be 160 credits when it is a 4-year bachelor's degree program with research. And 4-year bachelor's degree program with research, 160 credits, one can directly join PhD, provided one has secured 75% score in that 4-year program. So friends, the discipline measure, which is in 3-year program is 60, in 4-year program is 80. Minor streams, multi-interdisciplinary, within that, related discipline, earlier it was 24, now 32. Multidisciplinary from other disciplines, 9, in 4th year is also 9. Ability enhancement, 8 credits each. Skill enhancement, 9 credits each. Value-added courses of diversified areas, including 21st century skills, 6 to 8 credits. Summer intensive, 2 to 4 credits. And research and project, which is research is compulsory for a 4-year program, and therefore in a 3-year program it's nil, and for a 4-year program it is 12 credits. So put together, a 3-year program is 120 credits, which is final, and the 4-year program is 160 credits. But for your reference, I must mention that the University of Delhi has already implemented 176 credits 4-year undergraduate program, and the first semester has already started. So friends, to conclude this credit and ABC, what will happen what is going on, that the college and university, 15 hours of classroom teaching plus students' activities will be considered as credits. Open distance learning, already I said 30 hours of student learning was there. The semester, 20 credits per semester, 40 credits a year. In semester, 1 credit is 1 hour of teaching per week over a 12 to 14 week semester. 12 to 14 weeks we have been teaching in a semester. So 1 credit is 1 hour of teaching, or 2 hours of practical, or 2 hours of distance learning per week over a 12 to 14 week semester. That's how now, once for all, the credit definition has been fully standardized. The academic bank of credits, this is a national academic depository. Your institution has students who register, and the URL that I have mentioned earlier, please go through that for a detailed discussion technically how you will be joining and operating the academic bank of credits. And the students, they should register in Academic Bank of Credits. They accumulate and deposit their credits, which is valid for 7 years, as I said, and 50% minimum credits will be required for an institution to award a degree. And rest of the 50, a student can, from diversified disciplines, other institutions, through distance learning, through SWAYAM, but 50% minimum is required for an institution, for that institution to offer a certificate, diploma, or degree. So friends, for your understanding, I must say that curriculum has been divided between theory, practicum, and internship, and therefore any curriculum and course of study that you are going to design, they have to be based on theory, practicum, and internship. Medium of instruction, as you know, that of late quite a few developments have taken place, that besides English, that the medium of instruction would be the national language Hindi or Rajbhasha Hindi and the regional languages. Textbooks in Hindi and regional languages, including Bengali, Gujarati, Kannada, Marathi, Odia, Tamil, Telugu, have already been being translated or being developed in diversified areas, including medical, engineering, IT, management, and other professional areas. Examinations in Hindi and regional languages, textbooks in regional languages, different companies or publishing houses are there. And next 6 to 12 months, a nodal agency will be created, self-learning materials in regional languages by the National Open University, IGNOU, and state open universities are already there. In the future, friends, we are going to have blended teaching learning. No system will have either full-time or full distance or full online, and therefore certain credits will be getting into student self-learning based on open education resources or textbooks with mentoring support by the teachers. There will be face-to-face interaction, presentation, lectures, discussion, hands-on, and there will be online collaborative activities, projects, and problem-based learning, project-based learning, portfolio-based learning, case-based learning, for instance, would happen in the future. Different kinds of blending is possible. You can stop the video and see sometime later. What is being proposed by the assessment agency, including NAC, NIRF, or International QS, or Shanghai or Times ranking, international ranking of universities, they are looking forward to 4 kinds of evidences from us as teachers or administrators or institutions. A curriculum mapping or concept mapping of all the concepts involved in that curriculum, course, or program of study, that mapping of that, which is translated into learning outcomes, and those learning outcomes are matched with the student activities that the student will undertake to achieve those learning outcomes. And finally, what formative and summative assessment rubric would be there, that which will assess those learning outcomes. These 4 prominent evidences are necessary in our curriculum design. So far assessment is concerned, NEP is talking about 3. We have been doing almost 2. But the last one is very prominent. We have been doing assessment of learning, which is summative, and that summative learning will also diversify to include varieties of assessment strategies. Please go through the UGC document on examination, assessment, and evaluation, which talks about diversified ways with examples that we can undertake even summative assessment, term-end assessment, or year-end assessment. Formative assessment through varieties of activities, not only assignments, but also varieties of activities, student activities, a formative assessment can also take place. Preferably if it is 50-50, 50% formative and 50% summative. In fact, if the summative can be reduced, it will be highly appreciated. What it talks about is the 3rd kind, assessment as learning. So what would simply mean that the students are engaged in activities, so for instance doing a portfolio or a case, for instance, or a project-based learning, and the teacher is also assessing simultaneously. So while the student is doing that activity, assessment is also taking place. Assessment for the teacher for awarding grade, and assessment for the student also, that while doing that activity, they are also assessing themselves and improving their learning. These 3 kinds of assessment would come to implementation. Friends, so far internationalization is concerned, as you already know, that there is a cross-border educational delivery of different kinds. Campuses can be established elsewhere. The campuses can, overseas institutions can come to India to establish their campuses. They can offer full-time. They will not offer any distance learning program. They have to offer offline programs or campus-based programs. So courses and programs to be promoted from India: Indology, Indian language, Ayush system medicine, yoga, arts, medicine, music, history, culture, modern India, ancient India, all these, they have to be promoted also insofar as our curriculum is concerned. UGC regulation has come up in 2023, setting up and operations of foreign higher education institutions in India 2023, which is under discussion, which will be finalized very soon. It proposes drastic changes insofar as internationalization or cross-border education delivery is concerned. Of course, though those institutions will come to India, almost 500 have been proposed to come to India. Top-ranking world universities they'll be coming. Indian universities will also be going abroad. There'll be autonomy in the admission and fee structure. They can hire faculty also. But UGC will be monitoring and doing inspection. There'll be full or partial need-based scholarships to the needy students, disadvantaged students from the rural areas is also possible through endowment, through alumni donation, and through tuition revenue. These three have been proposed over there, from which money will be generated and the student scholarship will be given. They may take 2 years to set up their system over here, and there will be initial approval for 10 years, after which it will be assessed again, and they cannot offer their programs online. They have to offer programs offline only. Movement of funds as per Foreign Exchange Management Act, FEMA, 1999, because there will be a lot of fee and movement of foreign exchange, Indian earning from outside institutes earning from India. So that will be regulated by the FEMA, and credits acquired abroad can be counted for award of a degree, and 2 institutions, one from overseas, one from India, can also join in to award a degree. But finally, the Indian institution will award the degree, even if the student has done certain credits from outside. There will be credit transfer, but one institution will be. But within the country, that dual degree is very much allowed. In terms of research, finally, to conclude, 1 or 2 minutes more, friends. Insofar research is concerned, NEP is talking about establishment of a National Research Foundation, which will be apex body for the award of research projects and of basic, fundamental, action research of diversified disciplines. Other research institutions would, of course, continue to exist. Research as part of undergraduate education, as I said, the 4th year will be largely dominated by research. PhD after completion of 4-year undergraduate program, which will be directly leading to a PhD program, research. But recently it has come out that the Indian scientific publications have almost gone up seriously. We were in 7th position in 2010 in terms of world scientific production, including citation, scientific research, intellectual property, and so on and so forth. In 2020, we are now in 3rd position, and which we are still increasing. We might jump to 2nd position. Now the 2nd position is China, 1st is USA, and we might touch the 2nd position. Patents in last 3 years, from 2511, 2018-19, we have almost doubled in 2021, and the total research output for the last 2 decades, these 3 organizations have contributed significantly, which others would also join in. IIT is almost 16%, CSIR 10%, and Central University is 10%. So finally, to conclude, friends, that continuing professional development is part of this implementation of NEP 2020, which is given to IGNOU to implement that, and you are part of this exercise, and this exercise is going on. The continuing professional development, the Samarth platform, the screenshots are available to you. Below left-hand side is the Swayamprabha Live, which was inaugural live conferencing by our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Nageswara Rao, so myself, left-hand side, and Professor Parar, who is now Director, Center for Online Education. We joined the Honorable Vice Chancellor to offer that inaugural Swayamprabha Live conferencing. On the right-hand side, you will find all the URLs that is given to you for registration, Swayam, SP Live. You will find the introduction video, the Samarth, NEP PDP trial run video, all the videos that are available by national experts in YouTube, that also URL is given, and course navigation is also given to get into the Swayam platform. So friends, these are our modules available, contributed by experts, that when you get into Swayam, you will get hold of these modules contributed by national experts, and especially the video program starting from Dr. Kasturi Rangan till Professor Ramchandran, AIO Secretary General, NEC Chairperson, Professor Avinash Pandey, the NCF, the National Policy Committee members, Professor T.B. Kattimani, NCRT Director, Padma Shri, Professor J.S. Rajput, who was also member of the National Policy Framework Drafting Committee, Professor Sahasrabudhe, who was Chairman AICT, who is now the Chairman of the National Technology Forum, which is a very powerful body to integrate all the technology in the country, and so on and so forth. So these videos and the printed materials are available. So I stop here, friends, and if you have any questions, we would certainly like to take up those questions, your questions, and respond as truly as possible, as practically as possible.
Thank you, Professor Panda, for this wonderful presentation where you have provided a broad contour of the National Education Policy 2020. You have spoken in detail about the National Credit Framework and various aspects of the National Education Policy. For example, the curriculum design, the assessment, the internationalization of the programs that are to be offered in this country. You also spoke about the National Research Foundation and how it is going to affect the research that is to be conducted in the institutions. You have spoken about the multidisciplinary education that is to be implemented. Apart from that, you've also mentioned about the multiple entry and exit, and you've also given detailed outline of the academic bank of credit, how the institutions are going to implement. You've given concrete examples of Delhi University and IGNOU in this regard. So it was a very good presentation. I have a few questions. We have very less time, so we'll take up some of them only. The first question is, what steps are being taken to ensure that the policy is implemented in a timely and efficient manner?
I think 2022, the implementation started. In National Open University, we have gone ahead in implementing many areas, including multidisciplinary, multiple entry and exit, skilling, academic bank of credits, technology-enabled learning, blended learning, and quite an internationalization of education, and quite a few things, and quite a few areas. I think last time in December 2022, we were expecting that the National Higher Education Commission of India bill would be passed. So we hope that in the February session, which is in fact a budget session, which is a very tight schedule insofar as budget is concerned, if we can expect that the National Higher Education, National Commission for Higher Education bill is passed, then the other activities will immediately start. Point number one, because there will be institutional and regulatory restructuring, including assessment and evaluation in the country. Point number two, the University Grants Commission has come out with quite a few regulations and guidelines. Please go through the UGC document, including the ABC, multidisciplinary institutions and programs, internationalization of education, curriculum reforms, outcome-based learning, graduate attributes, open and distance learning regulations, quite a few that have come up, and the four-year undergraduate program which has come up They have come up with a national standardization formulation. The CUET, Central University Test, has already started, which might include gradually all the institutions in the country. There is a point saying that whether all institutions and students would appear one test or there can be diversified tests, that has also to be seen. But right now the central universities, they have joined together in one kind of test to get into the student allocation to different universities as it happens in professional education through national tests. This is the second thing. The third thing is that some of the institutions, and gradually they are joining in, they've also started implementing, especially insofar as curriculum is concerned. 4-year undergraduate program, the master's degree, and professional education areas. So they have started working on that. So that is the beginning, and the academic bank of credit and multidisciplinarity and multiple entry and exit and recognition of prior learning. I think that would be the beginning, which many institutions have gone into that, and gradually once the structure is in place and the modalities are in place and the networking is in place and exchange, especially credit transfer, is in place, they would proceed faster. I think gradually we are moving, and 2023 would be the fastest movement of NEP implementation. That's my understanding. And the National Digital University is also coming up, and National Digital University will have a hub and spoke model, and that simply means the nodal agency would be the hub, and institutions will offer their courses, and student will take up courses and deposit in the academic bank of credits and accumulate and then redeem those credits. And those institutions or that institution which has 50% of the credits for that student will be awarded the degree, or it is also proposed that if it is 50% or less, then the National Digital University itself will award the degree.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. For want of time, we will take this last question. How is the policy being communicated to institutions and administrators?
You see, this program is the prime national program that we are doing professional development for teachers and college and universities and standalone institutions. There are almost 13,000 plus standalone institutions in the country, single discipline institutions. Second, the University Grants Commission has circulated from time to time to different colleges and universities that they will start implementing with guidelines that the colleges are considering. They have to pass in their statutory bodies. So, because statutory requirement is there to move towards a whole lot of changes that are taking place. Number three, that the curriculum and textbooks are being developed in different regional languages. The Ministry of Education has given advisory to the different states' education secretaries to implement the professional development program and alert the teachers of colleges and universities to proceed to implement the NEP 2020. But recently, the Ministry of Education has directed us that we should also proceed to develop, to undertake continuing professional development for administrators, the vice chancellors, principals, deans, heads of departments, and other general practitioners, and for the general public, that to orient them to the implementation of NEP 2020, which we are going to offer. We have decided from 1st February, the next month, we will offer that in the SWAYM platform, which will be an open platform for all to join in. And state governments have also come up through their the state policy on education or the implementation strategy of the NEP 2020, and they passed in their legislative bodies, and the institutions are going ahead, especially universities and their affiliated colleges, and standalone institutions, of course, autonomous colleges, they have to do themselves. Whole lot of activities have already started, and 2023 we will see those activities will be undertaken in a large scale. That's my understanding.
Thank you, sir. Before we close, there are some announcements I would like to repeat again for the benefit of all the people who have joined for this program. This NEP 2020 Professional Development Program has 4 modules and it has 14 units. The SWAYM platform through which this program is being offered has 30 videos, including Professor Kasturi Rangan's video and IGNOU Vice Chancellor Professor Nageshwar Rao's video. I would encourage the participants to please visit the website and see the videos. There's also a discussion forum. All the participants who are participating in this live program, I request them to kindly join the discussion forum also and put their reactions on the platform. And this program is being telecast live through the COE Live YouTube channel, apart from channel 20 of SWAM platform. The link is splive.ignuonline.ac.in. All the videos are parked in this platform. And so far, 9 batches have completed this program. Accordingly, around 54 videos have been archived that are available on the COE Live YouTube channel.
I think they should access COE Live
Right.
to get those videos. COE Live. So you get hold of all these, please.
Yes, sir. COE Live YouTube channel. If you type that on the YouTube platform, you will get that channel's link. And from there, you can access all these videos. And I encourage all the SWAM the participants who are in this program to please visit that link and see the videos. And this program on the 6th day, all the MCQs will open up. So for the discussion forum, there is 30% weightage. I encourage all the participants to participate and take the questions. And also at the end of the program, there is a test, program end test, which has 70% weightage. I encourage all the participants to complete both the tests, and if you score 50%, then you will be eligible for the award of the certificate. And I also request all of you to kindly inform all your colleagues and your friends and let the people know that such a program is going on, and it is free of cost. All those people who complete this program will be eligible for award of certificate, which will count for their career advancement scheme and also add to their API score. And lastly, I would like to mention that immediately after this program, 2 videos will follow. One is on National Education Policy, Broad Contours by Professor Kasturi Rangan, and another video is Role of Policy in Higher Education by Professor Ramchandran. So that's all for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, before I start with the actual presentation of the policy itself, I will spend a few minutes with respect to the relevance of education in the present context. A lot of things have been asked to me in public with respect to why at this time an educational policy, what kind of relevance does it have in the context of India and the context of the global developments. And always you have to articulate some aspects of it. Of course, first we all recognize there's more than 3 decades since we had the last one, and there are several developments that have happened. India, of course, will have the highest population of young people in the world over the next decade, and we recognize that nearly 50% of the population will be below 35 years of age, aspiring for high quality education. This democratic dividend certainly has to be taken advantage of. I don't think we have discussed it in several platforms. We have debated it, and certainly this is a direction and aspiration for the country which we have to realize. Globalization and demands of a knowledge economy and knowledge society call for emphasis on the need for acquisition of new skills by learners on a regular basis for them to learn how to learn and become lifelong learners, a critical consideration to be addressed appropriately. And that is where this education policy certainly has focused on. Changes in knowledge landscape, especially science and technology, I don't have to say here, but advances in big data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, all demand skilled workforce involving mathematics, computer sciences, data science, as well as multidisciplinary abilities across the sciences, social sciences, and humanities. The education of future need to be reconfigured in order to meet the goals of the global education development agenda. We are a part of that. The goal 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals 4 of 2030 that seeks to ensure inclusion and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning for opportunities for all. So this is broadly just to give it kind of a flavor of the kind of consideration probably the people who matter in terms of defining when to come out with a policy thought about. Now, how did we go about? A little bit of that also is of interest for the audience here. The process, of course, was that we had the members of the policy committee with the government set it up. And then we had a members of a drafting committee. We thought that besides the policy framing, we also need to bring it up in a way in which it can be presented. We had a special drafting committee. It had members of the policy committee also. And then we had a set of members, experts, who provided a kind of a technical secretariat support for doing this. And not to be satisfied with it, this is where I have my own strong views. The question of being independently evaluated with respect to the type of presentation we are making, ideas that we have created, and the strategy we have crafted. We put certain peer reviewers, people who are away from the policy formulation, who are very well aware of the kind of educational system, the academic system this country over the years, and therefore competent enough to give us very vital inputs about the first level of drafting this policy. So there were peer reviewers here. Discussions and consultation, we went through a very, even though this particular policy was initially having a basis of previous policy document, in fact, 4 years of work, very intense work had gone through in the formulation of this policy earlier itself. Documentation from downward consultations were there, submissions from individuals and groups were there. So there was the previous Honorable Minister of Education. We had also the TSR Subramaniam Committee and many others. So we had many things to fall back on. The question was to review them, to adopt them, and to see where we need to move extra efforts. And that is where we saw that discussions and consultations with the different stakeholders, including organizations, institutions, and individuals. We had quite a number of inputs which were new, which had very unique in terms of things which were not earlier presented or considered for discussion. And of course, when everything was ready and when we made an initial presentation to the ministry, they felt that ultimately going to the public domain is a national, very important national document. We need to get the public responses of what they are in for the future of education. We got more than 2.5 lakh responses from both from the school and the college education, higher education point of view. So that was another major thing. We went through a consultation with the state educational authorities, including in many of the states, we had also consultation with the state ministers. And then we had a review, so that when the policy was in the near final stages, the number of reviews were conducted by the Honorable Prime Minister himself. In fact, he went through every aspect of the policy and every item of the policy, and he wanted to make sure that there is a level of pragmatism and the ability to carry this forward in the implementation domain. So this is one of the important things that the Honorable Prime Minister, he came out with several interesting suggestions also, I should mention. So that is the other part of it. And finally, we got the cabinet approval on the 29th of July, 2020. Immediately following that, for a number of measures, the first and foremost was to make sure that there is a very intense familiarization process for this. So major conferences with chancellors, vice chancellors, directors of higher education institutions, other high-level functionaries were convened. These are meetings convened by UGC and Ministry of Education and addressed by Honorable Prime Minister and His Excellency the President of India. So these were kind of things that were also carried. This also underscored the importance at the highest level that they attach to the policy. And now we are in the stages, and I will say at the end of my talk a little bit about how the concerned agencies and the ministry is moving towards the implementation. Now, to give a framework for the policy provides an integrated and flexible approach to education. It has kept the interconnectedness, the various phases of education in mind, and how the same will enable continuity, coherence, and processes to ultimately realize an end-to-end educational roadmap for the country. An articulation of a broad view of education encompassing the holistic development with special emphasis on kindling of the creative potential of each individual in its richness and complexity, has grown increasingly popular in the recent years, several domains of discussions. The policy thus aims to have it aims at the development of the 21st century skills. I don't have to re-emphasize what these 21st century skills are here for the students while giving them the flexibility, making choices consistent with the dynamics of a knowledge society. Before we go straight into the higher education and go into the details of the same, a little bit about the connection between the school education and the higher education. We do recognize, all of us, and the policy does so, the interconnectedness of the various phases of education. I mentioned it earlier. School education is of intrinsic importance, there's no question. How a student experiences the schooling phase of education could have a significant influence on those subsequently pursue higher education, including professional and vocational, besides, of course, helping to lay the foundation for lifelong learning. So keeping this in mind, I'm trying to first put the overall policy element, the element that is gone into the policy as a part of the academic side, not just on the governance and other areas. We have the early childhood care and education, home education, Anganwadis and preschools. One of the very key elements, because we did make transformatory recommendations in the context of the early school education. I will say a few words about it in the subsequent projections. And right now it is divided over a 15-year period of foundational, preparatory, middle, and secondary. We'll see the details of that. On the higher side, of course, we have the undergraduate, general education, teacher education, professional and vocational to focus a little bit. And then we have the postgraduate, masters, and PhD, need not be emphasized here. And ultimately, a national research foundation, a unique institution that will spur the research, and particularly in the educational institution and university system particular. And then, of course, we have areas like lifelong learning, adult education, and many other areas that have been also including the use of technology for education. These are all part and part of. So this is just the broad elements of the policy which you have touched upon in the policy. And I will, of course, as requested, I will try to concentrate on the higher education, but not before saying a few words about the kind of thing that we have thought about in bringing the school education to a new domain. The extent 10+2 structure is what the early school education will be. It will be modified with a new pedagogical and curricular restructuring of 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, covering the ages 3 to 18. I have shown it here in terms of 4 levels. The foundational level, where the policy, this is the education starts, unlike at 6 years, now it starts at 3 years. 3 to 8 years is what we characterize the first 5 years as the foundational phase of the school education, 3 years of pre-primary, preschool, and then we have a primary education, which is first and second class, the grades. So you have the 5 years here. What is important in this phase, which will take you up to the age of 8, is the fact that the policy recognizes the individual differences in the cognitive development of children at this stage, and therefore formal structured learning will be absent during these 5 years. So the important thing is that each child has to be evaluated with respect to its growth of the brain, and these are not uniform, so there is no linear pattern in which the growth occurs. And it's also important that 85% of the brain virtually is matured by the age of 8. So we need to make sure that the learning process is suitably adopted. The maximal advantage of this kind of a pattern, 85% by the age of 8, is whether it is language learning, whether it is literacy and numeracy. These are all critical elements in this phase of the foundational phase of the school education. This you carry forward a little more from unstructured, you go into the curricular structure in the next 3 years, that is from age 8 to age 11, where the curricular structure and standardization can be slowly introduced. And carrying this forward for the next 3 years, you virtually go into subject areas. You have a teacher student interaction much more effectively, and also have the capacity for abstraction, because that is something which was in the earlier 2 phases much less because of the nature of the brain growth. And lastly, we have the secondary education, the last 4 years of school education, ages 14 to 18. There will be multidisciplinary orientation with exit options. This is the phase that will prepare the student for undergraduate program. And that's why I'm coming to this, because undergraduate program is very much related to the kind of orientation in the policy that we have tried to create in the secondary level of the school education, including early introduction of liberal arts education. So this is the kind of a thing. Of course, you have vocational education here, you have the exit option here. If you want to leave at the age of 18, the school education and take up some kind of a job, there are enough provisions for that, enough training and other kinds of things. In fact, we have recommended that we need to have a youngster who knows at least one vocational area thoroughly, 100%, in by the time he leaves the school, that kind of a thing. And the first 4 elements of the vocational education in the overall scheme is a part of the secondary and part of the middle as well as the secondary education. So this is the broad thing. I thought I wanted to emphasize this mainly because these are the times and we understand today the neural sciences and the kind of cognitive science which dictated this study of creating a policy around the present understanding of the brain and its growth. And I thought I should bring it to the attention of this erudite audience. And this is just to give you an idea of a brain, how critical it is to make sure that we make use of the brain and its stimulation, the early phase of the child's growth. And one can see very clearly the cognitive stimulation, what it does to the brain, to a case where such a simulation has not occurred. We can very clearly see the temporal lobes, how different they are in terms of its growth and maturity, and which essentially means how much you take advantage of the pattern of the brain growth in terms of the learning process and also the teaching process. Now, having said all this with respect to the school education, we move over to the undergraduate education, part of the higher education. What the policy does is to promote a holistic. We have made a broad approach which is holistic and multidisciplinary at the undergraduate level. And this is something which is not new to this audience, and especially I don't know IIT Delhi's some of the very early efforts in the context of holistic and multidisciplinary education. They generate more imagination and creativity in the student to ensure their all-rounded development. And of course, the concept which we today term as a liberal education, which is really multidisciplinary and holistic, is an age-old idea in the Indian context. I don't have to say this again. The Banabhatta's Kadambari, which is considered a person was recognized as truly educated when he mastered the 64 kalas encompassing music, dance, painting, culture, languages, and in addition to subjects such as science, engineering, and mathematics, as well as vocational subjects. Liberal education explores the remarkable relationships that exist among the sciences and humanities, mathematics and arts, medicine and physics, etc., and more generally, the surprising unity of all fields of human endeavor. A comprehensive liberal education develops all capacities of human beings: intellectual, aesthetics, social, physical, emotional, and moral in an integrated manner. So this is the approach, and this is the one we have tried to translate into the policy as a crucial step to lead India into the 21st century. The fourth industrial revolution, multidisciplinary education is central. Even engineering schools, I know IIT is following this. In this case, will move towards more holistic multidisciplinary education with more arts and humanities. While arts and humanities students will have to learn to more science, while all will try to make an effort to incorporate more vocational subjects and soft skills. India's rich legacy, I mentioned about Bhanabhatta's work and many other kind of work subsequently in the arts as well as in sciences and beyond, will significantly help in making the move towards such an education, hopefully an easy and natural transition. Now, how is it that the policy has put that in concrete terms? Liberal education with broad multidisciplinary exploration, it has to be an imaginative and flexible curricular structure, creative combinations of disciplines of study. This has been chosen, whether it's arts, crafts, sciences, mathematics. One has to see how do you create a creative combination. This has to be all worked out. And multiple exit and entry option is another important feature of the undergraduate education. And master's and doctoral education will provide the sub-based specialization as a part of the higher education. The 3 to 4 year undergraduate course with multiple exit options. The 4-year program is the main recommendation in terms of the undergraduate program. Undergraduate degree will encompass, of course, liberal arts, multidisciplinary and holistic education, and then you have the chosen major and minor concept that is there. We have the vocational subjects, and later on, even professional education will be brought into this kind of undergraduate education, which is a 4-year. The 3-year program, which is currently very much there, will be retained with the necessary changes to bring in more holisticity and interdisciplinarity. Both the 3 and 4-year programs lead to a degree with honors with research work. So that is another thing that one. So there is a provision for research work in the undergraduate program, which prepare on one side it really enriches the youngster, on the other side we certainly have a better preparation for the higher education, and ultimately exit provision does exist with a 2-year diploma in the with a 2-year diploma at the end of 2 years of undergraduate, and a 1-year certificate at the end of the first year of the undergraduate education. These are all drawn in a way in which there is enough provision for the person when he exits, he will have an appropriate kind of a professional career which can be chosen. And this is a preparation that you try to do in the first year and second year of the undergraduate education, with the proviso that in case in the later years you want to come back to the education with certain provisions with respect to the preparatory part of the entry, you can still continue your education to a 3rd year or a 4th year or even higher education part of the postgraduate education. This is also kept as a flexibility in the system. On the master side, 2 years for those with the 3-year undergraduate degree, 1 year for those with the 4-year undergraduate degree with honors, and an integrated 5-year program is the 3 kind of flexible way in which you can go towards master education. Next one I would like to bring is integrating professional education. Regarding the integration of professional education with general education, the policy aims to take a holistic view to the preparation of professionals by ensuring broad-based competencies, an understanding of the social human context, a strong ethical compass in and addition to the highest quality professional capacities. There is something holistic about the recommendation that we have made. I'm sure most of the professionals are very aware of this particular part of it, especially the IIT faculty and the academics. And but we have made a strong pitch for this because we think many of the higher education institutions, especially the university system, certainly need to address this much more seriously than what has been done so far. All institutions offering either professional or general education must be organically evolved into a multidisciplinary institution offering both by 2030. The overall higher education sector will aim to be an integrated higher education system, including professional and vocational education. Thus, this approach will be applicable to all higher education institutions across the current streams, which will eventually merge into one coherent ecosystem of higher education. This is ultimately the objective by 2030, 2035. There is certainly a time frame. It's not easy to make this kind of transformation, but we think that we need an integrated professional education as a part of an overall higher education. Now we come to the quality higher academic research in the fields. Again, I don't have to carry coal to Newcastle by giving you why we should do research, but put some numbers here just to see that the situation in our country with respect to research. Whereas IITs and those ISERs and things like that, you have tremendous research and vibrant activity going along with teaching. The broader question of the university systems, both state and the central, I think we need to do quite a lot. Even though we do address this question of a quality academic research in the overall context of a higher education institution, we would like to particularly make this policy focused on educational systems in the university, and many of the state universities and other private and some of the other private universities certainly has to review this in the context of the type of recommendation we made. And we do know the importance of the European Union estimate that 2/3 of the economic growth of Europe during they came the research. You had also, if you really look at the European accomplishments in the research and innovation, I was just trying to look at some of the details. 15% of all productivity gains in 2013, and that an annual increase of 0.2% of GDP in R&D investment result in an annual increase of 1.1% in GDP, a five-fold return for the type of outcome that they were getting. If you look at the present research and innovation investment in our case, 0.7, we can keep debating on that. One has to compare it with respect to something like 2.8 in US or for 4.3 in Israel or South Korea. These are the kind of which are 3 times the proportion of GDP. And this lower level of investment certainly meant the number of researchers in India per lakh of population is just 15. Your numbers are 400, 800 kind of numbers. If you talk of US and as an example, other it has an impact. I don't have to again emphasize low levels of patent application and scientific publication. So these are the kind of thing, and certainly it was a very important agenda in the another discussion with regard to propagating research in the higher educational institutions. And so we have spent a considerable space and time to make sure that we have some very tangible recommendations on promoting this. Now, how have we tried to recommend it? We have tried to recommend the creation of a national research foundation. It is it is based on the fact that the policy will put emphasis on catalyzing and energizing research and innovation across the country in all academic disciplines, with particular focus on the state universities and colleges. I said that in the beginning, and that is where really the lacuna does exist, and they are serious that too. A fund to seed research in all universities and colleges so that synergies between the research and quality education can be leveraged maximally. NRF will fund across all disciplines. It's not only in engineering, and also it will expand the research and innovation at all universities and colleges, including private institutions. We have not made a distinction between private institutions and public funded institutions. And the criterion will be, of course, the merit of the proposal and the kind of capability to do research and the type of outcomes. And we need to make sure that they get the benefit of a funding system where this can be pushed further. After all, they also educate Indians, and many of the people depend on the private institutions for education. The NRF will have the provision to cover many themes: science, technology, social sciences, arts, humanities, and many more. In the scope, of course, everybody understands funding research through a competitive peer review process, building research capacity at academic institutions across the country through mentorship. There are very specific recommendations we have made regarding the mentorship, the type of bringing in people who are veterans of research, who are at this time available for guiding research in these kind of institutions, who can spend some time doing research, guiding research, and also establishing the capability to conduct research in these kind of institutions, and then create the beneficial linkages between researchers, academy, everybody talks about this, and disseminating research through seminars, which is the other aspect of doing research. So these are the kind of things. This is just to give a little brief summary, a snapshot of the kind of thought that we have put into the National Research Foundation. We think this needs to be established, and this is also going to be. We had, of course, in our mind things like the National Research Foundation of USA. There are models of establishing this kind of a system, which really becomes a place where they address the excellence, the relevance, and the kind of outcomes with respect to research. And this has had a very strong influence on the support of research in the educational systems in many of the advanced countries, and particularly if you look at the models like US and Europe. And the other aspect that we have addressed is question of energized and educational capable faculty. We have spent devoted considerable space with regard to the questions of the faculty, the quality and engagement of its faculty. And virtually, we can say the faculty is put back at the heart of the higher education. The rampant practice of contractual appointment, one issue, very heavy teaching loads, these are all may not be applicable to institutions like IITs. But these are anyway, I don't have to emphasize these aspects of it with respect to the broader issue of higher education. The infrastructure support, most faculty do not even have a structural faculty recruitment and development plan. So we have gone Every part of the institutional development plan should carry this in the higher education. Appropriately designed a permanent employment tenure track system for the thing by 2030. Autonomous faculty empowered to make curricular choices, conduct assessment of students, infrastructure for continuous professional development. These are other aspects of it. And appropriately designed bridge courses for mid-career professionals to get into teaching. That's also available so that if anybody wants to get into the teaching profession from another area where you need to facilitate this by the appropriate bridge courses that can be worked out. One of the important things that we have tried to do is to consider the school education and the teachers for the school education. One thing we found that the existing system, the school education, doesn't meet the type of standards and the type of things that we need to have for teaching at the school level by the conventional educational system providing teacher education. What we have tried to do is to move the school education preparation will be done in the multidisciplinary university. Departments of education will be set up in many universities to offer a 4-year integrated state-specific BEd. The whole idea is to bring in BEd as one more of those undergraduate educational stream, one of the undergraduate educational stream, put it at a par with the other professional educational themes as well as the mainstream education. So BEd will be an undergraduate program of study covering both disciplinary and pedagogic teacher for each stage of education, foundational to secondary. All subjects including arts, sports, vocational education, they will be mainstream. On par with other undergraduate degrees, gradually the 4-year program will be eligible for master's and PhD programs. And the current 2-year BEd program will continue till 2030, but that after 2030, only those institutions who are capable or who are qualified to provide a 4-year teacher education can offer the 2-year teacher education. So we want to make sure that the standard, the quality, and the excellence that is intrinsic to defining and preparation. Certainly, it takes into account through the higher education systems overseeing the teacher preparation and education. 2-year program will be used for lateral entry of school teachers. There are also many interests in the people becoming school teachers in the lateral mode. Specifically designed courses in the pedagogy for mid-career professionals to become faculty will also be introduced, and standard and dysfunctional teacher educational, thousands of them have been already shut down, and this is recommended to be reviewed. Either they move towards institutions like the degree giving autonomous colleges, or close down, or move over to other areas where the teacher is the thing. We have addressed the questions of integrating technology at all levels of education. There is a very specific section where we have discussed this. I don't think I need to go much into the details of this. Again, the questions of 4 broad categories, well known: improving teaching, learning, imitation, and supporting teacher preparation, continuous teacher professional development, enhancing educational access to disadvantaged groups, streamlining educational planning, administration, and management, and teacher training for trade. The edutech is critical. And towards this, I also bring in some example where improving teaching, learning, and evaluation as a part of the educational system's resilience during the recent crisis like the COVID-19, the online education, synchronous mode, live interactions, and asynchronous mode, blending high-quality pre-recorded content, rapid feedback with automated smart evaluation. So these are the kind of things on the improving the teaching and learning. Example regarding the supporting the teacher education and continuous teacher professional development, you have the recommender systems for content and certifications. Just another example in the COVID-19 scenario, the enhancing educational access to a disadvantaged group, connect the few specialized teachers to virtual classrooms of learners with specific needs, must address the digital divide. That is the biggest problem with respect to the implementation of some of the digital divide, and certainly this is to be seen. Now, streamlining education planning, administration, and management. We are also trying to set up as a part of this a national repository. There is a national repository of educational data to track progress in achieving educational goals. So this is just to give you a gist of the kind of details in the policy. on the questions of educational introduction. But equally important is the fact we have tried to create a kind of a setup. It is not creating a lab, or it's not creating a facility, but it's a kind of a forum, a national educational technology forum, which we have recommended to be set up with the following rules to provide. But the reason why we thought about this kind of a body in the context of choices, in the context of selection, in the context of a research and educational technology, in the context of adaptation of educational technology from other sources of technology. The reason why I thought is the moment you throw open an technology as a facilitator for certain type of function, whether it is related to education or many other areas, it could be even to deal with energy from the waste. The type of technology and the type of options that will be available are enormous. And most of the time, the ability to make choices is one of the biggest problems that we see. The questions of when ISRO did work related to a national, what you may call as a developmental program, where you wanted to bring educational information to remote areas. The choice was to make sure that we create educational material. But what were the materials? Those materials had to be researched whether it is appropriate for the tribal population which is going to receive the material. 2 to 3 years of research work was needed before you could decide what the educational material and the technique of reaching the local population who will receive those material, and they will get enriched themselves in the process. This is a major challenge. This is one of the kind of example that if you want to proliferate the technology, you need to have a means of studying it, understand, evaluate, and regulate it. That is the idea that National Educational Technology Forum that we have tried to set up to provide an independent evidence-based advice to state and governments on adoption of technology-based interventions, to build intellectual and institutional capacities in educational technology, to promote education in them among educational institutions, and to articulate new directions of research and innovation, the use of technology for improving it. You would assume that these kind of things, also the actual activities on research and things, will be carried out by the Department of Education, which will come up in the higher educational institution, at least some of the higher educational institution. So the National Educational Technology Forum will maintain a regular inflow of authentic data from multiple sources, including the educational technology innovators and particularly at the grassroots level. Disruptive technology, this is something you're very much day to day, you're seized with. The 1986-1992 policy could not expect the internet's disruption. This policy fully expects the educational system to face many technological disruptions, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on. Two major aspects related to such disruptive technology we have identified: harnessing technology to improve educational outcome, that is human plus artificial intelligence, hybrid interactive systems, education in new and disruptive technologies, identifying them and preparing students in new large numbers, and finally the project addresses both these kind of a thing, the policy. Now, on the governance side, I've just tried to, again, we got the policy in the beginning of my talk. I'm just coming back to the policy side and what is the kind of a governance structure that has been done. I am trying to here show the state education and the central education in two color codings. The blue is the color code for higher education and the yellow is the color code for this. And the main thing is the central agency for the particular CABE, the Central Advisory Board of Education, is now in this policy, they have elevated, will oversee the overall administration, governance, and evaluation of how the policy is going to work at from the central level, and also to make fine tuning or midterm corrections. A kind of a reviewer and evaluator, and also a recommender with respect to the changes needed in the context of. So this is the system which is adopting the Central Advisory Board and making it more empowered. Then we have an Higher Educational Commission of India, which is what is recommended to be set it up as the highest body on the higher educational commissions. As a part of you have the four major verticals that are there under the HECI. One is academic and standard setting, which can be the PS, the professional standard setting bodies, and so on, the Education Council, the National Council of Technical Education, the All India Council of Technical, the Medical, ultimately the PS, the professional standard setting bodies under the academic and standard setting. And on the academic side, you have, of course, the National Higher Energy Qualification Framework for higher education. And then you have the second one, which is regulation, the National Higher Regulatory Body. And then you have accreditation, National Accreditation Council. Then you have the funding, Higher Educational Grants Council. So these are the four verticals under a Higher Educational Commission of India. This is what is recommended. And of course, the education provision will continue to be given by the autonomous institutions and other types of which are a part of higher education. So this is the kind of a structure that we have tried to evolve with respect to the education. And with about this is the fact that empowered governance and autonomy of higher education. This is something which I don't think that this need to be much discussed in a place like IIT, IAC, but it's good to know. This is one of the things that had been of concern while they were debating on the subject with several of the experts in this area. That recognizes the effective the key to creation of a culture of excellence in the innovation of higher educational institutions. All the higher educational institutions in the next 15 years, self-governing entities through a system of graded accreditation or graded autonomy. With accreditation, such establish a board of governors, qualified and competent individuals with proven capabilities and a strong sense of commitment, something which we need to do for many of the higher education institutions in this country. The board of governors will be empowered to govern the institution free of any external interference, something everybody talks about it. This is something very explicitly made clear in the policy. Make all appointments, including that of the head of the institution, and take all decisions regarding the governors. The board of governors will be responsible and accountable to the stakeholders through transparent self-disclosures of the relevant thing. The board of governors to develop a strategic institutional development. These are all there in many of the institutions, long-term, medium-term, 5 years, or short-term, 1 to 3 years, based on the institution can develop educational and research outcome, parameters for quality and capacity, improve organizational and financial and human resource development plan to assess the progress. So this is just to give you a flavor of what we have recommended in the empowered governance and autonomy of the higher education. So the most important aspect is the fact that we have strongly recommended the autonomy on the governance, on the academics, as also on the finances. Now, what is the kind of way forward before I conclude the thing? There are several things I did mention in the beginning of my talk that there has been one of the most important steps that was taken immediately after the government took decision on accepting this recommendation with necessary inputs from public domain and other sources is the fact that once they knew that there were a number of presentations, there were a number of discussions, there were a number of seminars and other kinds of interactive systems. And both Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable President were involved in many of these. I don't have to say that here. Many of you were there as a part of that particular thing. So there is quite a lot that has happened in terms of sensitizing the policy in its role, but certainly there are many things which continue to be inquired about, seek clarification about, and not every some of them will come forward only when you try to do these things. You start getting a feel of the issues, and that is where I said about the midterm correction or fine tuning or better clarification or change of strategy. This will be a part and parcel of this, but by and large, I find that this is understood by many of the policymakers and implementation the related responsible people. The MOE itself has done an action plan. Now they have done it. I understand. They have, because I'm telling this this part of it more from the inputs that I received rather than trying to be a part of it. But I want to say that the MOE has certainly provided a good action plan, which they have worked it out, which has got something like 100 and they have taken the higher education policy section. They have looked at the various policies items. They have converted them into identified action plans, and 181 activities have been identified with the time frame that it needs to do this under 16 broad themes. This is what they have tried to do. we need to do this. There's a continuous churning of these ideas, and some discussions are going on this. The UGC on its own has been also organizing conclaves for discussions on this particular thing. And then there have been a lot of the outreach of the policy to different segments of the governance systems of the country, both the central and the state, has been another major feature of the recent efforts in trying to make sure that the policy is read, understood, and then come out with suitable strategies of implementation which are applicable, because there are the local issues also. One has to keep it in mind. There is a broad strategy that we need to have for the country, for the policy to be translated into the next step of implementation, and also specifics with respect to the local conditions or the regional conditions and things of that kind, which is more than just the policy. It has got finances, it has got the resources, human resource, and many other things. So this is something on which work will be done. But the fact I would like to emphasize is, and you know this again because you are a part of a system which is implementing it, that this work is in the forward, in the movement. And I cannot but conclude with the statement that, as I said in the beginning, I think this is a very unique policy. It has its own challenges to implement. But I think what is important and what is reassuring for some of us is the fact that many elements of this has been done in some form or other by institutions. And I mentioned about the IIT Delhi because of its pioneering role in areas like multidisciplinarity and approach of science, technology, and policy, society, or more recently, with respect to humanity and social sciences, to be integrated into the undergraduate education. So these are things on which it is not that these are all totally new because of the policy, but there is much more that has been done through the various actions and directions and visions of various leaders and institutions of this country. I'm sure that we need to understand it very clearly. We need to see how that can be adopted and how this policy itself can aid in taking it forward. So with these few words,
interventions to fulfill the vision, at the same time also to meet the education sector development programs in the country. The National Education Policy 2020 has certain fundamental principles guiding it. Number one, for instance, the policy seeks to recognize, identify, and foster the unique capabilities of each student so that we can nurture and foster her or his holistic development. The term holistic development is very important. I'll come back to that later. The second term, which is very important for all of us, is the term flexibility. The NEP-2020 envisages flexibility in paths of learning, in choice of programs and courses, so that the education can be tuned to the interest and talent of each student. So this is the second principle guiding the policy. The third principle is what we call honoring student diversity. India is a country of tremendous diversity in terms of socio-economic status, in terms of culture, in terms of language, and so on. And therefore, the kind of students we get also would be of tremendous diversity. Many of them could be at the undergraduate, postgraduate level, first generation learners. How do we honor this diversity? Let me get back to the term holistic development. What do we mean by this term, holistic education? It simply means an education program that would help develop all capacities of human beings. For example, intellectual development or intellectual capacities, physical capacities, social development, emotional development, aesthetic development, ethical practices, and moral development, all in an integrative form. To have this integrated approach, therefore, will require exposure of students to or building capacities across variety of disciplines like arts, humanities, social sciences, natural sciences, vocational education, performing and visual arts, and so on. That would be what we call a multidisciplinary education approach. So to promote holistic development in the higher education sector, 2 quick actions. Number 1, moving higher education institutions into large multidisciplinary institutions. And the word large is also important. In India, we have a large number of standalone institutions with the enrollment in many cases less than 1,000 and even less than 500. How do we move these single stream higher education institutions to a multidisciplinary institution? That becomes a transformative initiative, number 1 for us. Second, can we offer in our universities and colleges multidisciplinary programs? That means a person may major in physics, maybe the person may offer a minor or opt for a minor in music or a visual art or history or economics. That means there is no clear-cut demarcation between arts, sciences, vocational field, and so on. That means the boundary between different areas of knowledge can be removed and get an integrated holistic education. Students are given options to choose courses or programs of study according to their interests and talents. And that is possible only we offer what we call multidisciplinary education. Gradually, all undergraduate programs in the country will move towards a multidisciplinary education approach, including those related to professional education, vocational education, and so on. So therefore, many of these professional, technical, and vocational education programs also will have this approach, what we call a multidisciplinary approach to education. So this is a transformative initiative we envisage through the implementation of the National Education Policy 2020. Third, the National Education Policy 2020 envisages what we call institutional restructuring and consolidation. What do we mean by this? All higher education institutions in the country would be categorized into 3 groups. Number 1, those which are referred to research intensive university. They will offer high quality research programs in addition to high quality teaching. That means the focus will be on both high quality research and teaching. This will be one set of higher education institutions. Second, teaching intensive universities. They will focus more on high quality teaching, but at the same time, they will also do significant research. This is a second category. The third category belongs to what is referred to as autonomous colleges or constituent colleges, which can award undergraduate degrees. But they will also, if they accept 4-year undergraduate program, will also have research projects done by the students. These are the 3 categories of institutions we propose to have during the next 10 years. Research intensive universities, teaching intensive universities, autonomous colleges or constituent colleges which will award undergraduate degrees. Gradually through this, the affiliating system followed by the current universities will go away. It means many of them would become the colleges affiliated now, would become what is referred to as autonomous colleges or constituent colleges, which would be an integral part of the university. So this is what we call institutional restructuring and consolidation. The fourth aspect, if you really want to improve the quality of education, make it multidisciplinary approach to education, we will need to attempt revamping of curriculum, including pedagogy and assessment program. Therefore, we will need to undertake curricular revision. Learning content should be revised. Pedagogical approaches should be made in tune with the revised curricular structure, and assessment that would help in moving towards, in terms of the multidisciplinary approach. This is what we call moving towards academic excellence. Now, academic excellence, as I indicated earlier, include 3 things. Number 1, enhancing the relevance of learning contents. This is one aspect. The syllabi has to be revised, and the contents related to these must be improved. Second element of academic excellence is what is referred to as teaching excellence. How can we ensure that the teaching learning process is improved to make it excellent in terms of imparting relevant knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values among all our students? Third element of academic excellence is, as I indicated earlier, improving the assessment methodologies and procedures. The policy talks about 3 approaches to assessment. Number 1, assessment of learning. That means assessment of learning outcomes, expected learning outcomes. Sometimes we call summative assessment. This is one aspect that helps students to move towards certification and so on, improve learning process. and see how we can move forward. The second element is what we call assessment for learning. Teachers assess learning to improve their own teaching methodologies, instructional strategies, pace, styles, and so on. This is essentially what is referred to as formative assessment. In fact, the emphasis now will be more and more on formative assessment. The next element is what we call assessment as learning. After assessment, students have what we call self-assessment strategy. Can they make self-corrections? Can they do self-monitoring of expected learning outcomes and make corrections required to enhance learning? That means the students themselves will use assessment to improve learning processes. That is assessment as learning. All these are part of what we call academic excellence. The next element of policy is faculty as the main part of learning process. Faculty at the heart of learning process. It means faculty excellence is something we aim at. This would need high quality induction programs for university and college faculty, high quality refresher program for the existing 1.5 million faculty in universities and colleges, for their continuous professional learning and development. And through that we can bring about faculty excellence for three core functions. Number one, what we call teaching excellence, scholarship, and so on. Including next one, excellence in research, teaching, and scholarship. So one important aspect of policy, therefore, is can we enhance the quality of research being done by Indian universities through the creation of the National Research Foundation, which will fund peer-reviewed research proposals and programs proposed to be undertaken by universities, mainly universities and faculty of universities and students. So therefore, the next transformative initiative relates to enhancing quality of research or catalyzing quality research and innovations. This is again a transformative initiative. The next transformative initiative we are talking about is, again, in the context of academic excellence, is utilizing technology. That means leveraging technological and digital technologies in education for 3-4 purposes. Number one, enhancing access to quality education. Number one is this. Second, improving the quality of teaching and learning process in universities and colleges and other higher education institutions. Third, can we leverage technology for continuous professional learning and development of our faculty in universities and colleges? Fourth, can we use technology to improve educational planning and administration at all levels of education, including higher education management system? Next transformative initiative in this context is changing the regulatory system of higher education. We now have a single body regulating the higher education system. Can we ensure that the higher education system have a body for regulatory functions, a separate body, maybe named as Higher Education Regulatory Authority? Second, a body for standard setting in higher education, a separate body for standard setting, referred to as General Education Council. The third body, as we have now, for assessment and accreditation of higher education institutions. What is being done by NAC? Can NAC be a meta-accreditation body, which may have many more bodies to accredit, and NAC plays the role of a meta-accreditation coordination body? Last, a body for financing higher education. All together, all these four, that is regulatory body, standard setting body, accreditation body, financing body, under an umbrella organization called the Higher Education Commission of India. This is considered to be another transformative initiative. What the policy proposed is, while regulating higher education, we want a system that is simple but tight, that not too many indicators, take a few indicators to accredit a body, regulate a body, but enforce it tightly. So that's the kind of thing we are talking, that this system will help develop quality education institutions. And in this context, technology is an important aspect as well. The next element in the context is policy is based on what you call equity and inclusion in all higher education institutions and so on. So equity and inclusion, I consider inclusion as providing access to success, not just access to facilities, and ensuring retention. Can we ensure that all enrolled students in the country will have access to success? They would attain the expected learning outcomes in the case of all students. So equity and inclusion as cornerstone of the National Education Policy 2020. Next in the case is, can we ensure what we call the support system for all colleges and universities, a quality learning environment to ensure a conducive learning environment for, a support system for students, how we can do it. So an important emphasis of the policy is on what is referred to this as improving the quality of learning environment and support systems, including the healthcare systems for students and faculty. Can we attempt that? Last but not the least, I talked about this. When we say continuous professional development of faculty, I normally mention 5-6 areas of action. Number one, that training is important, as we do through this program. But in addition to that, can we have faculty exposed to good lectures by experts in the field on variety of disciplinary areas and so on. Number two, can we have demonstration lessons, demonstration teaching for all faculty members, subject related, subject specific, and so on. Third, we may have virtual or in-person subject specific groups which can meet virtually or in person once a month to discuss issues related to subject areas and so on. Next, can we provide opportunities to faculty to have action research on pedagogy, curricular contents, learning assessment, and so on? Can we aim at that? Next, can we ensure opportunities for faculty to participate in state level, university level, national level seminars, conferences, and so on? That also contributes to faculty learning and development. And lastly, even international exposure to faculty, participating short-term programs abroad, customized program on research and development, and can we do it? And that is one element. Since I have limited time, I'm not trying to say that the policy, when implemented totally, will help enhance student excellence, students capable of demonstrating the graduate attributes expected, the learning outcomes defined for all stages of education. Number one, this. Contribute to achieving academic excellence through improvement of learning contents, teaching, assessment practices. 3, achieving teaching excellence through the kind of programs we talked about. 4, achieving excellence in research and scholarship. 5, achieving staff excellence, non-academic staff in university. Can we achieve that? Next, can we give opportunities to international experience for our students and faculty? Faculty exchange program, student exchange program, and so on. Next, very important, as policy indicates, achieving excellence or quality in university leadership, college leadership, and management. You may ask me a question, what is the difference between leadership and management? A leader is one who sets a vision for your college or university, sets directions for actions during the next 10 years and so on, 15 years, 20 years. And through this, can we aim at reaching a gross enrollment ratio in higher education for the age group 18 to 23 years, 50% by 2030? That is a target. Can we reach that? So excellence in governance and leadership is extremely important thing. Management. A manager controls resources, deploys team to ensure that the proposed vision of a university is enhanced, achieved, and that becomes the role of a manager. To end my discussion, I would say, what is proposed is to implement these transformative initiatives during the next 10 years to ensure high quality higher education, to make India a global knowledge superpower during the next few years, to reach the overall vision of the National Education Policy 2020. And in this, faculty of colleges and universities have a pivotal role. And that is why policy says teachers and faculty at the heart of the learning process. So I end by saying, next few years, we invest more in faculty, more in continuous professional learning and development of faculty in each of our higher education institutions to move towards a multidisciplinary higher education institution, to implement a multidisciplinary program, to improve leadership at all levels, to enhance governance management, and these are all part and parcel of the NEP 2020. I stop at this stage. Thank you very much for your kind attention.